Twitter shares rising again on news that Elon Musk will now join the board of directors. Something our own Josh Brown said yesterday would make a lot of sense.
I think he should have board seats immediately. I know it's a passive stake. I know he's not outright calling for any particular change. I definitely think management should be engaging with him. Maybe they already have. And who else should have input into strategic direction and management of this company?
Okay, Mr. Prognosticator, that was you yesterday. What about today?
Yeah. I think this was the only move they could have made. You know, he could not have mounted an activist campaign for board seats himself, just given the timing. The annual meeting is in May, and I think you need a little bit more time to plan for something like that. So if they hadn't done this, then they would have just basically had their largest and most vocal shareholder calling them out by name on their own app anytime that they chose to brush him off or not pay attention. So I think the funniest two things that happened here, the first is that they filed it as a G, LOL. I don't think this is a guy who's known to do anything passively. And he was already asking for feedback from other people using Twitter how to change the service prior to the filing. So it was never going to be a G. It was always either going to be this, where they limit him to 14.9% stake, or a full-on D, which would not have been fun for anybody else who sits in the executive suite or on the board. So this made a lot of sense, and hopefully they do something to constructively improve the monetization of the platform and maybe even kickstart user growth again.
Okay, Stephanie Link, you used to own it, and you're looking at it again?
Yep. Well, I think this is fascinating. I think it would be silly not to look at it, especially given that it trades at 8 times price to sales. And I know this is not really a price to sales kind of market at the moment, but it's way less than Snap, which is at 14 times price to sales. So they built an alternative news platform, and they have not been able to execute. That actually has been the thing that's been so frustrating. So every time I bought Twitter, it was like a tactical kind of a trade, a tactical position. Because I think that he can help on the execution front, on the monetization front, and also control the content and figure out what they're going to do with content, just to be consistent. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to wait and see. It's up a lot in 2 days.
Sure is.
But I think this is very, very interesting. Yeah.
Doc,
but I'm not chasing it here. But I think if it gets sold off at some point, given the macro environment and the markets, I would probably take a look.
Doc, you bought calls yesterday, right? After this news.
Well, I rolled up, Scott. Pete was live on the show with you the 25th of March, doing it for Unusual Activity, Rig and Twitter both. And we bought the 44 calls. Those calls went $7 in the money yesterday. They traded up north of $9, I think. So it was nearly an 800% winner. Took that off, rolled up to the June 50s, Scott. I think this stock hits 75, 80 by year end. And I certainly applaud Twitter and Mr. Musk for basically opening this thing back up, hopefully for more freer speech on the platform.